If you've ever tried to think deeply while someone was jackhammering a sidewalk nearby, congratulations. You now know what cognitive decline feels like in real time. Urban noise isn't just annoying, it's potentially eroding your brain like a slow, invisible leak in a house you didn't know was flooding. While we've long accepted the honks, sirens, alarms, leaf blowers, and upstairs neighbors who treat 11 p.m. like tap dancing hour as part of city life, emerging research says we're paying for this noise in brain power. And not in a cute, quirky way. More in a your hippocampus might be shrinking and you didn't even get a t-shirt kind of way. Here's the problem. The human brain was never designed to constantly monitor the equivalent of a drumline practicing in your vestibular system. But in urban centers, chronic exposure to noise, especially from traffic, trains, airplanes, and construction, keeps the brain in a low-level state of alarm. You might not consciously register it, but your nervous system does. That distant rumble? Your amygdala thinks it's a bear. That sudden horn blast? Your stress hormones spike, blood pressure rises, and even sleep cycles are disrupted. Over time, this steady bombardment interferes with your brain's ability to focus, consolidate memories, regulate emotions, and, here's the kicker, literally maintain its structure. Several long-term studies now show that people living in noisier areas perform worse on cognitive tests over time. Children exposed to chronic aircraft noise, for instance, show poorer reading comprehension and slower development. Adults who live near busy roads are more likely to suffer from sleep deprivation, depression, and even earlier onset of dementia. One study out of Denmark found that every 10 decibel increase in road traffic noise was associated with an 8% increase in risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. That's right. The difference between a quiet suburban cul-de-sac and a honk-happy boulevard could be the difference between remembering your anniversary or introducing your spouse as that person I recognize from somewhere. And don't think your fancy apartment with sound insulation makes you safe. Many buildings absorb bass frequencies like a wet sponge absorbs sarcasm, not well. Low-frequency noise, like the hum of HVAC systems, underground trains, or next-door club nights that start at midnight, can penetrate walls and disrupt brain function even if you're not consciously aware of it. You may think you're adapting, but what's really happening is that your prefrontal cortex is slowly waving a white flag while screaming internally. One of the more chilling findings is how noise doesn't just make it harder to think, it may actually age your brain faster. Chronic stress from environmental sound accelerates the release of cortisol, which is neurotoxic in high doses over long periods. Think of it as bathing your brain in a slow acid drip every time you hear a scooter with a modified muffler screech by at 2 a.m. Over time, that stress erodes neural connections, especially in areas responsible for memory, learning, and decision-making. The result? You get older, mentally slower, and possibly more irritable, but hey, at least you're well-versed in car alarm brands. The problem is compounded by the fact that you can't just tune it out. Even while you sleep, your brain remains partially alert to environmental stimuli. In fact, some studies show that people in noisy environments experience more fragmented sleep, which further accelerates cognitive aging. So even if you fall asleep to the dulcet tones of ambulance sirens, your brain never quite shuts off. It's like trying to charge your phone on a power cable that's been chewed by a raccoon possible, but you're not getting 100%. Of course, none of this is helped by the fact that we now willingly invite even more noise into our lives. We blast podcasts while commuting, binge shows while cooking, and listen to white noise machines to drown out the street noise caused by people who are, ironically, also trying to drown out street noise. It's a vicious cycle, and at this point, the only winner is the hearing aid industry. So what can you do, short of fleeing to the mountains and raising goats? Noise-canceling headphones help, but only to a point. Soundproof windows are useful if you're rich and/or living in a Scandinavian design catalog. For the rest of us, the best advice may be to consciously create pockets of quiet, morning meditation, digital detox hours, or just occasionally sitting in silence without a soundtrack. Think of it like flossing, but for your brain. You won't see the results immediately, but over time, you might keep more of your memory, attention span, and sense of peace. And isn't that worth more than hearing one more car horn symphony? In the end, urban soundscapes may be the background music of modern life, but we should stop pretending it's just part of the vibe. It's not ambience, it's ambient damage. If cognitive health were visible, we might see brains in cities graying out like old Polaroids left in the sun. Instead, we keep going, heads down, earbuds in, brains fraying at the edges because it's hard to notice mental erosion when it comes disguised as everyday noise.